President Trump orders reopening of notorious Alcatraz prison to lock away, quote, dregs of society. And I personally love this plan, but there are a lot of people who are pushing back and saying this is unfeasible. This can't happen. It is now a tourist attraction. It is very expensive to run. And one of these people pushing back are Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, I mean, you could just imagine Nancy Pelosi when she sees that Trump is now ordering the reopening of Alcatraz. You could just see her shaking and her dentures chattering as she gets on X or Twitter and writes this very, I guess, passive-aggressive sounding post in response to Caitlin Collins from CNN. Caitlin Collins tweeted out, Trump says he wants to reopen Alcatraz as a functioning prison for the most violent offenders. As the Bureau of Prison notes on its website, it was closed in the 60s because it was 3 times more expensive to operate than other prisons. Well, in response to that, I will say, is it 3 times more secure? Because, I mean, it is like in the middle of, it's like an island in the middle of the water in California, right? And, you know, sometimes more expensive doesn't always mean worse. So I don't know. But Nancy Pelosi, she was obviously very, very offended by or put off by what Trump decided to do by ordering the reopening of Alcatraz. And this is what Nancy Pelosi said. Alcatraz closed as a federal penitentiary more than 60 years ago. And she's probably like shaking with fury while she's writing this. It is now a very popular national park and major tourist attraction. And then she adds this, the president's proposal is not a serious one. So, yeah, you know, what's going to be really funny is when this actually is reopened to the dregs of society, as the New York Post puts it here. But President Trump called on his administration to reopen and expand Alcatraz so authorities could send the dregs of society to the notorious California prison more than 6 decades after it closed. The commander-in-chief announced Sunday that he was directing the Bureau of Prisons and other federal agencies to get the massive island facility off the San Francisco Bay, which has long been the lure of Hollywood. Get it back up and running to lock away homegrown repeat criminals. He said, quote, for far too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders, the dregs of society who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering. And yes, there are a lot of those. There are a bunch. And they need to be locked up. And for some of them, the key needs to be thrown away. For a lot of them, the key needs to be thrown away. When we were a more serious nation in past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. No longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem on our streets. And I think this is a big situation. We have, I just read the other day, was it a shop owner? It might have been in Minneapolis or New York. I forget, but I remember reading this. And I'm like, this is insane. There was this guy who was arrested. I think it was in New York City. Arrested and released 50 times. Arrested and released 50 times. Only to go back and like destroy this store, the store owner's shop, to the point where the store owner had to close down because he could no longer afford to put it back together. 50 times. And this is not an isolated incident. We see this everywhere. We see this happening in some of these liberal states like California, of course, New York. We see it happening in Minnesota. And it's like, how are these criminals able to operate with impunity to the point where they ruin it for law-abiding citizens that are contributing to society? And this is what people are absolutely furious over. And people don't understand how we can't just get these people out of society and send a message to other people who are thinking about doing these certain types of activities, these criminal activities, that if you do this, your life could potentially be ruined. By letting someone go into the prison system, go out that many times without facing really any consequence, that sends the opposite message to all these criminals. Hey, if you do criminal activity, it's not going to really affect your life that much. So you can keep doing this stuff, and your life is not going to change very substantially. The opposite message needs to be sent to these criminals. Hey, if you're going to mess life up for good, law-abiding citizens who are trying to make a life for themselves, trying to make money for themselves and their families, you're gonna feel it in your own life, because that type of lifestyle is not what we want in our country. Trump also said the substantially enlarged and rebuilt prison would, quote, serve as a symbol of law, order, and justice. But the logistics behind the presidential order are thornier. The island is now a major tourist attraction and is run by the National Park Service and attracts thousands of visitors each year, and is also a designated national landmark. Alcatraz was initially closed because its infrastructure was crumbling and it was too expensive to keep running, giving all food, supplies, and other necessities had to be delivered by boat. Oh, I'm sure, you know what? I'm sure there's a contractor out there that would just love a nice fat check from the government to make sure to keep this prison stocked up with supplies. Okay. If there's one thing I know, it's that these government contractors love making money, and they're going to be beating down the walls to secure this contract. And there's going to be no problems. There's going to be no problems finding someone to figure out the logistics of this whole thing. Maybe get Elon Musk involved. You know, he seems to be good at keeping costs low and, you know, figuring out how to do things logistics wise. Maybe get him in on this, and I'm sure we could figure it out. The facility was operated as a major federal detention center between 1934 and 1963. And was nearly inescapable because the island was surrounded by strong currents and ice-cold water. Some of its most famous prisoners included gangsters Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly. The island has become the subject of several Hollywood blockbusters, including The Rock, starring Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, and 1979 film Escape from Alcatraz. I've seen neither of these films. I do remember there was a show called Alcatraz. I watched some of it. It was interesting. During Alcatraz's 29 years as a prison, 36 men made a bid for freedom, with nearly all of them dying or getting captured by guards. We got some little shots of the facility here. To this day, it remains unknown if 3 inmates, brothers John and Clarence Anglin, and fellow inmate Frank Morris, successfully made it off the island alive during their attempt to escape in 1962. I've heard about this, and I guess they disappeared. So the island could very well have a perfect record when it comes to escaped criminals. You know, and some criminals, you know, they're both ruthless, evil, they're ruthless, evil, and smart. So sometimes you want these criminals, you know, in a inescapable, at least to the point where a prison can be inescapable as much as possible. Sometimes you want to put these types of people in these types of prisons because, you know, if they're smart, they're evil. Some of these prisons aren't able to keep them locked away. I just saw, well, I guess this is not really on the prisoner himself. I just saw just recently, I think this was in Georgia, a murderer was actually released after, I think it was a prison guard or maybe the court made a mistake and just walked him out the front door, let him go. And there was like a 2-week manhunt. But I digress because he didn't exactly escape. He was let go. But of course, he didn't say anything about it. Continuing on, Trump in his social media post said the country can't be held hostage by criminals, thugs, and judges that are afraid to do their job and allow us to remove criminals who came into our country illegally. The Republican has railed against federal judges who have slowed his efforts to boot alleged gangbangers and ship them off to infamous El Salvador mega prison. Just last Thursday, District Judge Fernando Rodriguez, who was appointed by Trump, blocked the U.S. government from using the Aliens Enemies Act to deport suspected members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Yes. Trump also ordered the FBI, the Department of Justice, and Department of Homeland Security to help get Alcatraz reopened. The president previously reopened a detention center at Guantanamo Bay where criminal migrants have been sent. When that announcement was made in late January, one of the president's sons, Donald Trump Jr., floated the idea of dumping prisons in Alcatraz. Now, this is a great idea, he said in reference to Guantanamo Bay. Maybe we should also reopen Alcatraz. And that is just what it appears the president is attempting to do. And he's getting a lot of pushback. And it's like, it doesn't matter what the president tries to do. He's going to get pushback, of course. He tries to, send out gang members from the country, MS-13, Trinidad Agua, and he gets judges blocking him. Like the Americans, the people in America who actually have normal jobs, who live lives where they have to pay taxes, they have to abide by laws, they have to, go to work. These people want these other people gone. We don't want to deal with it. Our life is already hard enough as it is, dealing with this economy, making sure we do a good job at work, making sure, we pay taxes, we abide by the laws in this country that are getting like almost insurmountably complex. And then we have to deal with these illegal aliens, these MS-13 gang members. We have to deal with a changing culture because there are so many illegal aliens in our country. So we are the ones, the backbone of this country, propping it up. And then we have to get basically pissed on by our own government. And when I mean government, I get Trump is trying to right this wrong. But these judges are part of the government too. So we're getting pissed on by our own government, who all they want to do is stick it to Trump. And it is absolutely disgusting. But what do you guys think about Trump reopening Alcatraz? Do you think it's going to happen? Or do you think Nancy Pelosi here, shaking in her boots, probably holding a wine glass or maybe a vodka, a glass of vodka Red Bull or something like that, shaking as she writes this post. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to happen, or do you think it's going to fade into a distant memory? I don't know. I think there's a possibility, but let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. But until then, I'll see you on the next one.